What is the hardest Minecraft difficulty to beat? Is hard actually the hardest, or is it more complicated than that? What about the hardest version of the game? Is it an early developmental snapshot, the newest version of the game, the old limited legacy console edition worlds, a version of Minecraft made for schools, or an obscure April Fool's version of the game? Let's find out, shall we? First, let's talk about the game's 4 difficulties: easy, medium, hard, and of course, peaceful. What's actually quite ironic about these difficulties is that arguably the easiest to beat is hard. Let me explain. The key differences between the 3 difficulties are the fact that mobs deal less damage on lower difficulties. So wouldn't this mean that hard is still the hardest to beat? Well, for the average player, mobs aren't really that challenging after a certain point. Pillaring up a few blocks or utilizing various strategies almost renders them useless. Furthermore, the advantages hard offer are extremely useful. On hard mode, zombies are converted to zombie villagers 100% of the time they are killed by zombies. Players can utilize this to convert villagers to zombies and back in order to get extremely cheap trades for gear, items, and weapons. On easy, this doesn't happen at all. The villagers will just die, and on normal, it only happens 50% of the time, making it unreliable. On hard, mobs also have a higher chance of dropping higher valued items when killed. This is because on hard, the local difficulty around the world is higher, and therefore mobs such as skeletons and zombies spawn with stronger armor, which also has a high chance of being enchanted. I believe that these advantages actually outweigh the downside of the increased damage you take on hard. Sure, for speedruns where you likely aren't going to have much armor, easy is still the best bet as it is significantly easier to survive, but the average player isn't speedrunning, rather spending a few hours getting gear. And on hard, you can get that gear faster and easier. But hilariously, out of all the difficulties, peaceful is actually the hardest to beat the game on. First, how are we going to get Eyes of Ender because no mobs spawn? Well, luckily, Ender Pearls can be found in a variety of structures around the world, so it is possible to get them, although it is quite time consuming. But getting blaze powder from blaze rods is impossible because no blazes spawn and there is no way to get blaze rods besides from killing blazes. So we can't go to the end then, right? Well, not exactly. First, you could use a seed which already has an end portal completely lit, but the odds of that happening randomly are basically impossible and it's kind of cheating to use the predetermined seed, so we'll rule that out. Therefore, there is only one method of legitimately getting to the end in peaceful without using a specific seed, and that method is subbing to me. We are so close to 400k, only 10k subs away now, so sub and get this little badge next to your name. Anyways, back in Minecraft 1.8, cleric villagers could unlock an Eye of Ender trade. This means that if you played peaceful in this version, you could trade emeralds for Eyes of Ender and successfully light an end portal. That changed in 1.9 however, as clerics would now trade Ender Pearls instead of Eyes of Ender. So, it is possible to beat peaceful on 1.8, but that's problematic, as while 1.8 is still used often on multiplayer servers for its PvP, not nearly as many people play 1.8 single player, as it's over 8 years old and there's so many new features to the game now. So, for the average player who is playing peaceful on the latest version, how can they get Eyes of Ender and beat the dragon? Well, it is risky, but you could go out a few thousand blocks into the middle of nowhere and convert your world back to 1.8. This will prevent your current builds from being corrupted by the older 1.8 chunks, which will now load and will still keep the items in your inventory. Then you could find a 1.8 village, trade for the Eyes of Ender, switch back to the newest version of Minecraft, and then find a stronghold and beat the dragon. Of course, this is extremely risky. Converting your worlds back to versions which are 8 years old is never going to be a smooth process, but it is technically possible to beat modern Minecraft on peaceful using this method, although significantly harder and more risky than all 3 other difficulties combined. Quite ironic. Alright, let's move away from Minecraft Java for now and talk about some other versions of Minecraft. First off, Education Edition. Education Edition is not any more difficult than normal Minecraft Bedrock. Nothing interesting there. However, Legacy Console Editions are interesting. For those of you who don't know, Legacy Console Editions refer to the first versions of Minecraft released for last-gen consoles before they were discontinued. You see, due to hardware limitations, Legacy Edition worlds on most older-gen consoles had a limited world size, that either being 864 by 864 blocks on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii U, or 5210 by 5210 on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So what does this mean for beating the game? Well, it makes it significantly easier. Finding a stronghold is virtually no challenge as the world is so small. There's a pretty decent chance you'll run into it while mining or caving in the 860 by 860 world. Furthermore, getting blaze rods to craft Eyes of Ender is also much easier because the nether is tiny, being only 288 by 288 blocks big. Just so you know how small that really is, that's about 18 chunks of render distance on Java. So finding nether fortresses takes no time at all. Interestingly, however, while the limited world size may be slightly beneficial in helping you beat the game, it becomes very limiting and difficult after you beat the dragon. On majority of legacy console editions, the end is also only 288 by 288 blocks. This means only one outer end island can generate, and it also always has an end city with a ship on it. That sounds kind of good at first, right? It means you don't have to laboriously trek through the vast and barren end on foot, dying multiple times in the process. Oh crap. And can instead get right to the end city. Well, no, because that means that you can only get one elytra in your entire world, and if you somehow lose it, that's it, no more flying. What about Minecraft Windows 10 Edition, the early version of what's now known as Minecraft Bedrock? Well, for Windows 10 Edition and even Alpha Pocket Edition versions, the end didn't exist until Update 1.0, released December 2016. Hilariously, while Endermen exist, as well as a variety of other items introduced after the end was added in Java, on these pre-1.0 versions, you could not get Ender Pearls or Eyes of Ender. I can understand not having Eyes of Ender because the end doesn't exist yet, but why couldn't you get Ender Pearls? They still have a function. Alright, let's go back to Java now and look at some of the stranger versions of the game and how they can be beat. Specifically, Minecraft's April Fool's versions. First of all, Minecraft 2.0, the 2013 April Fool's update. This update didn't really add anything useful that makes Minecraft more challenging to beat. However, torches do occasionally burn out, and every few minutes a bunch of random mobs spawn. It's debatable how hard this makes beating the game now, as you could just run away, but good luck with that. 15W14A, also known as the Love and Hugs update, was 2015's April Fool's. This version is actually quite difficult to beat, because the whole theme of this update is about love, meaning PvP and PvE is disabled, as well as a variety of other harmful features like TNT and flint and steel. Mobs do spawn, but the only real way to kill them reliably is fall damage and suffocation. That being said, obtaining Ender Pearls are a task in of themselves because Endermen aren't going to stand around and suffocate to death, they're going to teleport. Therefore, the only way to really kill them reliably is through fall damage, meaning that getting Ender Pearls is very tricky because Endermen aren't nearly as cooperative as other mobs. Alright, what about Blaze Rods then? Well, these guys are the opposite of Endermen. You aren't going to be killing them with fall damage, but suffocation is possible. It's a lot of effort once again because you have to build up and around them, but yes, it is possible. So after going through a lot of effort, you've got to the end, but there's an issue. How the hell are you going to damage the dragon? You can't even destroy the end crystals. Well, while arrows won't work for the end crystals, snowballs still do. As for killing the dragon, well, we can still use beds. So it is possible, but beating Minecraft in 2015's April Fool's snapshot is quite tough, mainly due to the difficulty in getting Ender Pearls and Blaze Rods. Moving on to Minecraft's 2016 April Fool's version now, the trendy update as it was known. This version adds some funny features, but also includes this item called Reality Vision, which gives you a 3D minimap. This is kind of helpful I guess, but overall, beating the game in this version is really no different. 2019 April Fool's, also known as Minecraft 3D, is interesting. It's actually easier to beat than most versions, including vanilla, because it has cheat codes. These cheat codes allow you to become invincible, fly in survival, get potion effects and items, which as you can imagine makes beating the game significantly easier and faster. However, there is a special difficulty called Nightmare Mode, which makes you constantly take damage until you die. This is basically impossible to beat unless you have specific items from the get-go, and even with these items, it would be extremely difficult as you would have to constantly be regenerating health. Next, we have the 2020 April Fool's update, also known as Minecraft Infinite. As I'm sure you know, in this version, by throwing a random book into a portal, you gain access to a completely random dimension. How the hell are we going to get to the end now? Well, you could just stay in the vanilla world and go to the end like normal, but let's assume you can't do that and have to get to the end through alternate dimensions. Now, some dimensions just simply won't have a stronghold. Even commands won't help you here. You can get extremely lucky, however, and I kid you not, the first time I was playing with this snapshot, I found an Enderman dimension, and then right after, found a dimension which spawned an exposed stronghold right nearby. So getting to the end wasn't an issue at all. However, upon entering the end, I was spawned out almost 3,000 blocks, so make sure to bring a lot of blocks with you if you do attempt this. So yes, this version of Minecraft can be beat relatively swiftly with the right dimensions, but it's unreliable and mostly based on luck. And then finally we have the 2022 April Fool's version, known as one block at a time. This version basically flips Minecraft on its head, changing a bunch of basic mechanics we are all so used to. First of all, the inventory and block pickup system is completely different, and so much more annoying. You don't have an inventory in this version, which means you can barely hold any items, and can't get a crafting table. And without a crafting table, well, good luck. Okay, so what do we do then? Well, you can find crafting tables in structures such as witches' huts, igloos and pillager outposts, and some village houses. But yeah, I told you the mechanics were different. This is how you craft in this version. What a pain. Oh, and tools only have one use before they break. Now you can still get obsidian though, because all blocks are obtainable with your fist, even if they do take years to break. Now in the nether, let's kill some blazers. Oh, by the way, did I mention that whenever you attack mobs in this version, it picks them up instead. You can damage them by throwing blocks and items at them though. Now to kill an enderman and get an eye of ender, and yep, that's right, eyes of ender don't work. To find the stronghold in this version of the game, you have to go back to the nether fortress, to which you can find end portal frames in chests. But placing them won't work, as their orientation is incorrect and therefore won't light. You see, they actually point towards a stronghold, and that's how you find strongholds in this version. So once you've used the end portal frame to find that stronghold, you can then finally place them in the correct orientation within the stronghold, and voila. Now, as for destroying end crystals, where you could just throw items at them, or bring a chicken and skeleton into the end with you, like so. Then, after destroying the crystals, you can then click the ender dragon to ride it, and boom, you've beat the game. What an effort. If I had to pick which version is the hardest to beat out of all, then it's definitely the one block at a time April Fool's version. What a tedious nightmare. As for vanilla, peaceful is pretty challenging as well, just because you have to pray your world doesn't corrupt. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe and help me get to 400k. Thank you all so much for watching.